My fiancé texted, "I'm leaving you for your best friend's dad." I replied, "Wow." Then I showed my best friend the text and we used the honeymoon fund to disappear. They were left frantically calling our phones, realizing they'd both been abandoned. I, 28 male, am writing this from the passenger seat of my own car, a slightly too sensible sedan that I bought with fuel efficiency in mind for a future I now see was a complete work of fiction. My best friend, Noah, 27, is driving. He hasn't said much for the last 100 miles, but his knuckles are white on the steering wheel. 6 hours ago, my phone buzzed with a text that detonated my life. Now, both our phones are lighting up in the center console, a frantic disco of ignored calls and texts. And the weirdest part? I feel calm. A deep, cold, unnervingly quiet calm. It was a Tuesday. I was confirming the final payment with our wedding caterer. Ava, 26, my fiancée of 2 years, was supposed to be at a yoga class. My phone lit up with her name. The text read, "I'm so sorry to do this now, Leo, but I can't live a lie. I'm in love with someone else. I'm leaving you for Marcus. We're together now. Marcus." Not a name I had to puzzle over. Marcus is Noah's dad. Marcus, 55M, the man who was supposed to give a toast at our wedding in 3 weeks. The man who clapped me on the back at our engagement party and told me I was a fine choice for Ava, like he was approving a new brand of scotch. My fingers moved before my brain did. I typed a single word back to her. Wow. Then I turned off the ringer. I walked out of my office, told my manager I had a sudden migraine, and drove straight to Noah's apartment. I found him hunched over his laptop, designing some logo for a freelance client. He grinned when he saw me. "Hey man, come to drag me away from my responsibilities?" I couldn't speak. I just held out my phone and showed him the screen. I watched every micro-expression shift on his face. The casual curiosity, the flicker of confusion as he processed the words, the slow, dawning horror, and then something else. A quiet, terrifying fury that settled deep in his eyes. He looked up at me and his own phone, which was on the table, buzzed. The caller ID was Dad. He silenced it. "My dad?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "With Ava?" I just nodded. The silence in his apartment was suffocating. We weren't guys who yelled or punched walls. We were the planners, the thinkers. And in that moment, our shared world had been leveled by two people who clearly hadn't thought past their own immediate gratification. "What are you gonna do?" Noah asked, his gaze distant. An image flashed into my head. A PDF itinerary on my desktop. Flights to the Maldives, a bungalow over turquoise water. A honeymoon. Our honeymoon. Paid for. The fund was $32,000. It was a mix of our savings and generous gifts from family. We'd kept it all in my personal high-yield savings account because the interest rate was better than any joint account offered. The plan was to hold it there until the final wire transfer to the resort, which was due next week. A small practical decision that suddenly felt like a lifeline. "Ava and I had a honeymoon fund," I said. The words tasted like ash. "It's for a trip." Noah looked at me. The rage in his eyes flickered and was replaced by a spark of something else, something wild. "Yeah?" he said. "So let's take a trip?" It was the most insane and most logical idea I had ever heard. An hour later, we were in my apartment, the one I shared with Ava. Her yoga mat was still rolled up by the door. I packed a duffel bag with essentials, jeans, hoodies, my passport. Noah did the same. I walked into our bedroom. On my nightstand was the ring box, a beautiful, custom-designed cushion-cut diamond I'd spent months saving for. I opened it, took out the ring, and placed it squarely in the middle of her pillow on the pristine white duvet cover. A silent, glittering goodbye. As we walked out, I paused and transferred the entire $32,000 from the savings account to my checking account. Then I logged into my banking app and disabled my debit card for ATM withdrawals. A small, paranoid thought, but my brain was working on a different level now. The first call from Ava came as we were merging onto the highway. I ignored it. Then a text. "Leo, where are you? We need to talk." A minute later, Noah's phone buzzed. "Marcus." He ignored it. Then another text to me from Ava. "This isn't funny. Call me." Then to Noah from Marcus. "Son, call me. Your mother is worried." They were coordinating. Realizing we were both gone, realizing they'd been abandoned, we're just driving west. We have a full tank of gas and a bank account full of what was supposed to be my future. I don't know what justice is. I don't know what revenge is. But it feels like this. The quiet hum of the road, the company of the one other person who gets it, and the beautiful, deafening silence from our phones, which we've now both powered off completely. We don't know where we're going, but for the first time in hours, it feels like we're moving forward. Update. It's been 8 days. The world didn't end, it just tilted. Noah and I are in a small, furnished cabin a few states away. The kind of place with wood-paneled walls and a faint, lingering smell of pine cleaner. We found it online and paid for a month upfront in cash. We pulled from a dozen different ATMs over 2 days. The first few days were a blur of driving and adrenaline. We knew we couldn't stay completely dark forever. We needed to see the battlefield. So, leaving our phones off, we found a public library in a small town, sat at a dusty computer terminal, and logged into my email and social media. The digital wreckage was worse than I imagined. The messages from Ava and Marcus were a masterclass in narcissistic whiplash, shifting from fake concern to entitled rage. Ava was already demanding her half of the money. Marcus was telling Noah he was an embarrassment. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. But we had bigger problems. Ava's parents had started calling my parents. They'd given us $5,000 for the honeymoon and they wanted it back. It led to a tense, awful call with my mom, who was scared and confused. I had to coach her through it. "Mom, just tell them the gift was for a wedding their daughter canceled, and that all future communication needs to go through my lawyer." I didn't have a lawyer yet, but I knew I needed one. That sent us down another rabbit hole. We spent an entire evening in a motel room, researching family law attorneys online. The first one we called was a dismissive jerk who made it sound like I was the one in the wrong. The second quoted a retainer that would have eaten a quarter of our fund. Finally, through a friend of a friend from college, we got a referral to a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer in a different city who agreed to an online consultation. It's scheduled for tomorrow, and the waiting is creating a knot in my stomach. The most pressing issue was the apartment. I couldn't go back. I spent a whole day trying to handle it remotely. The first 3 moving companies I called flatly refused when I explained the situation. "You want us to go into an apartment with a key you leave for us and pack only your stuff based on a video call? Our insurance won't cover that." Finally, I found a high-end concierge moving service that specialized in complicated relocations. They agreed, but it came at a premium price, and they required a notarized letter of authorization, which I had to scramble to get done at a local bank. It was a frustrating, expensive hassle that chipped away at our getaway fund, but the thought of Ava coming home to a half-empty apartment made it worth every penny. The movers are scheduled for Friday. Her things will be boxed. My things will be gone. Last night was hard. I was scrolling through my music and saw a playlist Ava had made. The opening chords of a song felt like a physical blow. I shut it off, went out to the small wooden porch, and just tried to breathe. The screen door creaked open, and Noah was there. He handed me a beer. He didn't say a word, just stood next to me, looking out at the dark trees. He didn't have to. We were in this together. The shock is wearing off. This isn't a joyride. It's a slow, complicated, and expensive untangling of a life I thought I had. Update: today was supposed to be my wedding day. I'm in an anonymous coffee shop, nursing a cup that's long gone cold. Noah is sketching in a notebook. The past 2 weeks have felt like a full-blown logistical and psychological war, fought via burner phones and encrypted emails. The smear campaign from Ava began as predicted. Instagram posts about my sudden and severe mental breakdown, paired with black and white photos of us. The sympathy poured in. Then Marcus made his move. It was slicker than I would have expected. He didn't just call my VP, he sent him a long, carefully worded email, CCing another senior partner at the firm. I know this because the VP later forwarded it to my boss. It was a masterpiece of corporate backstabbing, cloaked in concern. He wrote about my erratic behavior, my unstable state, and hinted that I might be a potential liability on the high-stakes project I was leading. He never mentioned Ava. He framed it as an old family friend worried about a young man going off the rails. It was deniable, professional, and utterly toxic. My boss, Frank, called me. His tone was neutral, procedural. "Leo, I've received some concerning correspondence. HR has been looped in. We need to schedule a formal call to discuss this. Let's aim for Monday. Those were the longest 3 days of my life. The uncertainty was brutal. I barely slept. This wasn't just about my heart anymore. It was about my entire professional future. Guided by our new lawyer, Noah and I crafted my response. It was purely factual. On Monday morning, I sent my email to Frank and the HR representative. I laid out the facts, attached the screenshot of Ava's text, and attached the email Marcus had sent to the VP. I stated that this was a documented case of external interference and character assassination related to a personal matter. The video call that afternoon was tense. Frank and the HR rep were stone-faced as I walked them through the timeline. When I finished, the HR rep, a woman I'd never met, just said, "Thank you, Leo. We will be handling this internally. Your job is not in jeopardy. Take the time you need." Frank called me later off the record. The VP was, in his words, volcanic. He felt he'd been manipulated and used, and he was furious that Marcus had put the firm in such a position. My vindication was coming, but it was coming via the slow, grinding gears of corporate bureaucracy. The apartment situation resolved itself with the chaos I expected. The concierge movers were professional and efficient. But the day Ava and Marcus showed up was a spectacle. My old neighbor Carol texted me. "She's screaming that you hired thieves to steal her stuff." The older man is trying to calm her down, but now he's yelling at a neighbor who started filming them with their phone. They got her things, but the image of their perfect new beginning was shattered by a very public, very messy tantrum in an empty hallway. We're still in the cabin. The honeymoon has mostly been spent on the phone with lawyers and my parents and strategizing our next move. It's draining, but there's a grim satisfaction in knowing that every one of their attacks has been met with cold, hard, documented facts. They wanted a mess. We're giving them consequences. Final update. It's been 6 months. I'm on the balcony of a new apartment in a new city. There are no shared memories here. The dust has settled, leaving behind the quiet, irreversible wreckage of two people's choices. Here's the final tally. Ava. Her social media campaign fizzled after the apartment incident. Her credibility was shot. She did, however, try a new tactic, a GoFundMe titled "Rebuilding My Life After Betrayal and Theft." It raised $75 from her aunt before a few anonymous accounts, I suspect some of my friends, started posting links to the building's Facebook group and the video of her screaming in the hallway. The page was quietly taken down. Her attempt to sue me was a complete failure. Her lawyer dropped the case after receiving the evidence from mine. The final shot was a formal cease and desist letter from my lawyer regarding her continued online harassment, which finally silenced her. I heard she's living with her parents. The relationship with Marcus imploded under the weight of his demotion and messy divorce. The powerful man she'd admired was gone, replaced by a bitter, financially stressed man living in a rented condo. Her dream life never materialized. I got one last rambling email, a bizarre mix of blame and nostalgia. I deleted it without replying. Marcus, Melinda, his wife, divorced him. The final straw wasn't the affair, but his complete lack of remorse and his fury at Noah for his disloyalty. The divorce was financially devastating for him. Professionally, the fallout from his email was severe. The internal review at his company didn't get him fired, but it put him under a microscope. They found years of inflated expense reports and policy violations. He was demoted, stripped of his title and prestige, and reassigned to manage a small warehouse in an industrial park. A huge blow to his finances, and a fatal one to his ego. Noah and me. Our trip was the reset we needed. After the initial weeks of legal and logistical battles, we used the remaining money to just exist. We hiked national parks, we saw the ocean. It was a quiet, healing journey. I never went back. My company was incredibly supportive and offered me a transfer, and I seized the opportunity for a clean start. I sold the car, bought a truck, and moved to a city where I knew no one. It's been the best decision I've ever made. I have about $7,000 of the fund left in an account labeled Next Chapter. I'm in therapy, and it's helping. Noah is the hero of this story. He chose his friend over his father. His relationship with his mom is slowly healing. He has zero contact with Marcus. He ended up staying in a small mountain town we'd visited, taking a graphic design job and loving the slower pace. Our friendship is different now. It was forged in fire. It's quieter, stronger. We video call a few times a week. Last night he raised a beer to his camera. To surviving the absolute worst, he said with a small smile. I raised my coffee cup, and to building something better from the rubble. Thanks for listening, Reddit. It's over. I'm okay.